During the year that changed my life, my high school homeroom teacher called me to the corridor and asked if I was the heroine of the dirty scandal that shook the whole school. I know you're here on a scholarship because of your family's underprivileged background, but you can't just do anything for money. As everyone threw me strange looks, she continued smugly, "Don't deny it. The mole on the girl's neck is just like yours." I calmly wiped off the ink stain on my skin, revealing my unblemished neck. My teacher turned red in the face. Unfortunately for her, I had been reborn. This time, I was not going to fall into the same traps. Oops, I may have accidentally gotten some ink on my neck when I was doing my homework. I calmly wiped the mark off my neck, smirking at my teacher. She had gone pale. "If that's all, Mrs. Smith, I'll head back to class now." In my previous life, my homeroom teacher, Mrs. Smith, had dragged me out of class just like this, accusing me without rhyme or reason. A picture had been making rounds on the school forums. It was a screenshot of a video chat, and both parties' faces were obscured. But the highlight was a photo of a girl's body with the school's uniform in the background. The school had immediately taken down the post, but everyone had shared the picture privately by now. Even Mrs. Smith got a copy, which was why she confronted me. She held the photo before my eyes, scoffing. "You look like such a nice girl, Cheryl. To think you would do such shameless things in secret. Were you chatting with your little boyfriend, or was it your sugar daddy? I know you're here on a scholarship because of your family's underprivileged background, but you can't just do anything for money." I was furious and humiliated, immediately insisting the photo was not mine. I did not have a boyfriend either. However, she pointed out that the mole in the picture was in exactly the same place as mine. I was caught off guard, standing frozen like a deer in the headlights while everyone's gaze pierced through me. No matter how I protested after that, there was no stopping the rumors. The whole school ostracized me, and my classmates vandalized my table with terrible insults. I lost the scholarship I was on track to receive. The shock gave my mother a heart attack, and she passed away. Mired in despair, I dazedly did the paperwork to drop out of the school, and then leapt to my death from the roof of a tall building. The next time I opened my eyes, I woke up on the day before Mrs. Smith confronted me. My mind working quickly, I went to a clinic to remove my mole, and then drew one back on with a pen. Back to the present, Mrs. Smith stared at my neck wordlessly for a while before snorting. "Good to know it wasn't you. After all, girls these days will do anything for a bit of money. I don't want you to stray from the right path." Not long after that, she walked into the classroom and stood at the lectern. "I'm sure you've all heard about the recent scandal." The class instantly burst into whispers and hoots. High schoolers were all curious about anything after all. Mrs. Smith rapped the lectern to call for silence. Society these days is a mess, and there are all sorts of characters out there. Of course, I won't allow these immoral trends to affect the students of our class. Let's put an end to this topic. I don't want to hear anyone discussing it anymore. She said it as though she was defending me, as though she had not been the one who randomly accused me out of nowhere. Besides, if she really wanted to protect me, she should be keeping the matter quiet, not bringing it to everyone's attention over and over again. She then cleared her throat. "I also hope some girls will relearn their sense of shame and have more dignity." Instantly, a bunch of indecipherable gazes turned to me. Quite a few people had heard our conversation after she called me out of the classroom angrily just now. It was clear to see what she was implying. I clenched my hands into fists. struggling to breathe. When I got home after school and saw that familiar silhouette, I finally let the tears fall. I hugged my mother from behind. She was surprised at first. Then she turned around with a smile and rubbed my head. When she noticed my tears, she panicked. What happened? Did someone bully you at school? I shook my head, sobbing. Thank goodness I still had time to salvage things. Over dinner, my mother suddenly asked me in confusion, "Your teacher, Mrs. Smith, suddenly started collecting every parent's job and house address in the parent-teacher group a few days ago. Is there some sort of event going on?" My heart skipped a beat, and I hurriedly asked her to explain more. According to my mother, many of the parents had given Mrs. Smith gifts. My mother was wondering if she should follow suit. I quickly persuaded her not to, scoffing to myself inwardly. Did Mrs. Smith do all this to me because she did not receive a gift? My mother was just a regular farmer. She would never understand these hidden rules. Just then, I saw Mrs. Smith's newest text message in the group. Considering recent events, we will be reselecting the scholarship candidates for this academic year. I gripped my phone, sneering to myself. Was she planning to steal my glory with the same old tricks? In her dreams. When I went to school the next day, everyone gave me strange stares as expected. I could hear their mean whispers everywhere I went. Did you hear? Cheryl Summers was the girl in the scandal. Seriously? Damn, she looks like such a nice girl too. To think she's so shameless in private. The girl in the photo is so curvy. Phew, Cheryl hid it well. Some boys stared openly at my body as they walked past, sniggering in a way that made me want to puke. I gripped my water bottle tightly and weaved through the crowd. As I was filling my bottle, someone suddenly splashed water on me. I could not dodge in time, so I was drenched. The water soaked through the clothes in front of my body, rendering my underwear visible for all to see. I looked at the culprit. It was Siobhan Smith, Mrs. Smith's daughter. She had hated me since she lost a Model Student Award to me last year, and now she could finally get back at me. Siobhan blinked innocently, but there was no hiding her smirk. Sorry, Cheryl. My hand slipped. But I have to say, you really have a good figure. She glanced at me pointedly. The students who had gathered around to watch immediately sniggered. Aren't you always acting prim and proper? Why are you so... Mrr. Her words were drowned out, her eyes wide with terror as she struggled fiercely. While she was spouting her nonsense, I had pressed her face into the water fountain. I then turned on the hot water tap, pouring the boiling water onto her head. She sobbed and shrieked like a pig at slaughter. What did you eat this morning? Why are you smelling? Here, I'll wash your mouth out with soap, I said with a smile. The students in the crowd were stunned. After all, I used to be the very definition of a good girl at school. Now, though, I was swearing like a sailor. After teaching Siobhan a well-deserved lesson, I headed back to my classroom. Just then, a cold voice stopped me. It was Jason Golder, the most popular boy in school for his excellent academics and cool appearance. He was also my biggest rival for the scholarship. He put his clean coat over my shoulders. I could smell the cool scent of pine wafting from it. You should wear this for now. You don't have to return it. I watched him leave, feeling surprised and rather touched. At times like these, when I was ostracized and alone, any tiny bit of warmth felt rare and precious to me. The school bell rang. I returned to the class, followed by Siobhan. She looked like she had been dragged through the mud. Mrs. Smith asked crossly, "What happened?" Siobhan pouted and was about to complain when I interrupted first, lowering my lashes pitifully. "Mrs. Smith, it seems everyone has misunderstood the contents of our conversation yesterday. I still don't know why you suddenly singled me out, but, like you said, the girl in the photo has a mole on her neck and I don't. You'll bear witness for me, won't you? Surely you won't side with Siobhan just because she's your daughter." I was holding her feet to the fire. Since she was the one who started the rumors, I was going to make her disprove them. Faced with the entire class intent gazes, she had no choice but to clear my name. "The girl in the picture isn't Cheryl." "All right, I don't want to hear anyone discussing this matter anymore," I persisted. "If that's the case, there shouldn't be any problem with the scholarship allocation, right?" Mrs. Smith's expression twisted for a second. "The school makes the final decision regarding the scholarship. But if you're confident in yourself, you can keep contesting for it." Only then did I return to my seat. A famous lawyer once said that when it came to blackmail with private photos, there were only two results. If you could not prove it was me, you were guilty of libel. If you could prove it was me, you were guilty of spreading illicit photos. In my previous life, the constant malice and humiliation destabilized my psyche. Accusations like that were fatal to almost any woman. However, I never did any of those things, so why should I have to bear the brunt? In this life, I decisively used the law to defend myself. I went to the police station and made a report. The scholarship selection went as planned. My results were excellent, and I was almost always first in the year. The scholarship usually went according to academic merit, so I was always a shoo-in for it. My high school was the best in the state. If I received the scholarship for 2 years in a row, I could guarantee entry into an Ivy League university. When I walked into the room, the loud conversations among the students instantly died down. I could hear their whispers, which included some absurd rumors. Some said I was a serial liar who stole the class funds because my family was poor. Some said prostitution was my family business. There were some brave souls who defended me too. Didn't Mrs. Smith say it wasn't Cheryl? Besides, she isn't that type of girl. However, they were quickly refuted with sarcasm and rolling eyes. Are you really going to believe everything she says? Some people are just two-faced like that. You'll get betrayed without even knowing it someday. The students needed some scandalous gossip to ease their academic stress. And what could be better than, the valedictorian's shameful secret? In comparison to the juicy rumors, did the truth really matter? Before the selection began, I exchanged a few words with Mrs. Smith and headed onto the stage in advance. The crowd erupted. "Hey, Cheryl, what a great figure!" Some of the boys suddenly shouted in unison, grinning. Siobhan sat in the candidate's seat, looking at me with a smirk. I just smiled back at them calmly, beckoning the police who had been waiting outside to come in. "They're the ones, officer." After recording my statement last time, the police agreed to collect evidence here at school. Now, there was a fresh batch ready for them. I stared back at the raucous boys, without a hint of fear. "What did you say? Say that again?" The boys, who were all red-faced and worked up, instantly cowered. Nothing. It was just a joke." "Really? And here I thought you were harassing me." They remained silent. Amused, I turned to look at the others. The ones who were happily slandering me seconds ago now evaded my gaze like it was toxic. Unfortunately for them, I had an excellent memory. I stopped in front of a bespectacled boy. "Didn't you say I stole the class funds because my family was poor?" He hastily denied it. "I didn't say that. You heard wrongly." "I'm sure I didn't. You sounded so convinced." The officer chipped in. "Young man, if Miss Summers did do such a thing, you can just come out and say it. However, you must take responsibility for your words." The boy gulped, looking paler than a sheet. "No, I just made it up." I smiled and turned to another boy with a crew cut. "And you said prostitution is my family business." The officer turned stern. "Young man, if you know the local prostitution ring that well, I may have reason to suspect you of—" The boy was begging for mercy before he could finish that sentence. "No, I don't know anything about it. I was just joking, officer. I don't know what Cheryl's family does for a living. I only said that because I was jealous of her results. Cheryl, please forgive me. I won't lie like that ever again." He slapped himself in the mouth as he pleaded, nearly bursting into tears. The other students who had been slandering me all lowered their heads, terrified that I would call them out next. Finally, I stopped in front of Chavon. "Chavon, you had the most to say after the pictures came out. You insisted the girl in the picture was me. Why were you so sure, Do you know something we don't?" Everyone turned to look at her in an instant. She began to tremble, her face pale. She suddenly pinched her thigh and burst out crying. "Everyone was saying it! Why are you singling me out?" "Cheryl, I know you always hated me, but I didn't know you would think that lowly of me. What do you think you're doing, asking me that in front of all these people? Are you trying to bully me?" Her sobs echoed around the room. Mrs. Smith immediately rushed over and shielded her with her body. "That's enough, Cheryl. How long are you going to hold on to such a trivial matter?" "A trivial matter?" I scoffed. In my previous life, this trivial matter destroyed my family and ruined my reputation. Chavon has always been a bit proud and stubborn, but she means well. If you keep hounding her like this, how is she going to show her face around her friends from now on? How hypocritical. I immediately burst into tears, my knees buckling under me as I collapsed to the floor. I hugged the officer's leg, refusing to let go. "You have to get to the bottom of this and clear my name, sir. I can't eat or sleep well these days, and the doctor said I have depression. These rumors have caused me a ton of psychological damage. If the matter isn't resolved convincingly, I... I'll just jump from the school rooftop." I looked at Chavon and her mother with tears in my eyes. They were both stunned. "Chavon, if there's anything else you know about the photo, you have to tell everybody. Since you're so honest and kind, I'm sure you'll help me discover the truth, right?" She was not the only one who could move crowds with her tears. Chavon gritted her teeth, sounding flustered. Don't pin it all on me. You know what nasty things you've done in secret. That has nothing to do with me." I wiped my tears and slowly looked around at the other students and teachers. The cops are right here. If I did anything wrong, you're free to stand out right now and accuse me. However, you have to take responsibility for your words. Also, I'm sure you know where those rumors originated from now, and whether they're true or not. The entire hall was quiet. I handed the podium back to Mrs. Smith. She cleared her throat. And the scholarship goes to... I took a deep breath, looking at the screen with my head held high. Jason Goldie.